Now we're going to continue to fine tune the first floor. I have the kitchen sink here, for example. So I'll just right click and say create similar, activate that window, come over here and hit the space bar to locate the correct orientation of the sink, and I put it in right there. Can we see the sink in here now? Yep, there's the sink right there in the countertop. I want to make sure that that sink is centered in the space here. So I'm going to say from the edge of here to the center of the sink, and then to the edge of the countertop, and I'll make that equal. And that looks good to me. And I'll just simply delete this guy. And now I have the sink exactly where I want it to be. I have my under counter cabinet, so I'll say create similar. Come over here, rotate it around. When you see these arrows, that means that's the front of the cabinet. So I have it located correctly in terms of orientation. And now I want to center that cabinet on the sink. So I'll come over here. And then I want to bring it back to the edge here. So now you can see that I have my sink base and I have my sink in here as well. And eventually I'll have some windows in front of the sink. Let's see, if we go back let's take a look at the 3D view of this. So I'll hit 3D. And I want to grab this sink and put it in the island. So I'm going to say create similar, go back to the first floor tab, bring it over here, and I'm trying to decide which way I want it to be oriented. Let's put it, yeah, that's fine. Let's put it in the middle of the countertop here. Maybe using the arrow key, I'll move it a little bit closer. I use the arrow key on the keyboard. Bring this up here, look for the equal sign. So hit escape, delete, and just, it's telling me it needs to be unconstrained because I've taken out the dimension line. And you can hit OK, or you can just simply hit the enter button on the keyboard. All right, so that looks good. That looks good. I might delete this. I just want to show you, this is how I'll do the demonstration over here on how you're going to do it. But I'm going to delete this countertop and just click on here and say create similar, and then come over here and rotate it. And now I've got that whole object in there. I want to align this guy with this guy. And what happened there? The sink didn't go. That's a first. The sink should have gone back there as well. Huh. That's interesting for this guy. Let's see what happens. All right. I'm just going to undo and do it the way that you're going to do it anyway. Something goofy happened there. All right, so all right, I know what happened. So I'm going to delete it. First, I'm going to put a guideline in here, annotate a detail line. I just want to know where the countertop should be ending. And I'll take this guy and I'm going to click on him and say create similar. Come over here. I can put it right there. Rotate it. Hit the rotate button. Rotate it 90 degrees. What happened was I used the align tool, and so that's why that messed up. So I'm going to move it now. In the previous, where I said, well, that's weird, that's never happened before, the sink was out here. because I used the align tool, I believe. So I'll just move it, and then we won't have that issue. I'm going to move everything. I'm going to grab this guy and move everything from here back to here. Okay. And there's my grip for my countertop. I'm going to try to align that. Let's see if I can use the align tool here. Yeah, there we go. So let's take a look at what I just did here. In this section here, go to view. There's my sink inside the countertop with a backsplash and the mirror behind, and I can go over to the parameters, and I want to change the height of the mirror. Height is 6 feet right now, so the height of the mirror from here to here is 6 feet, but I want it to go up to the ceiling, so 6'8". I'm going to change the mirror height to 6'8" instead of 6 feet. I'll just change that to 8. That'll still leave 5/8 of an inch there for my ceiling to go in. And you can see how easily that was created. Very, very simple. But this is the way that you'll be doing it because you don't have the that family available. We'll simply come over here, architecture, component. I'm looking for a sink, so I'll just type sink, S-I-N-K. Let's see what comes up. There's my available sinks, the vanity square sink. I'll say okay to that. Come over here, bing, 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 rotate it around. And it's a little bit too far away from the edge, so I highlighted it, and I'm using the arrow keys on the keyboard. Now I can also see that I put it in, but I didn't pay attention to the constraints. So let's go look at this section and see what happened. And simply the sink is, I didn't pay attention to the constraints, so the sink is lower than it's supposed to be. So I'll just click on that to align the bottom lip of the sink now is at the right height. We'll go back to the first floor. Now you can see the sink. Let's make sure that it's centered on this countertop using the equal button. Escape, click on the dimensions, delete, enter. There we go. So I don't know, I suppose I would probably want one of those sinks in here as well. Let's double check that sink is at the right height. So we'll come over there, we'll go back to that view. And yep, that sink's in the right height. So we'll go back to the floor plan. And I probably would want a sink in the pantry, the butler's pantry as well. So I'm going to say, create similar, come over here, hit the space bar until the orientation is correct. And let's zoom in a little bit, put it right there. Now I'll dimension from the edge of my countertop, right here, to the center of the sink, right there, and then to the face of the gypsum board, and look for the equal button. There it is. So you can see that I have a dimension icon next to the cursor of my mouse, which means that Revit's waiting for me to put some more dimension lines in. So I hit escape. Notice that the dimension icon next to the cursor is gone. So if we're talking about AutoCAD, I'd be saying that I'm in a blank command prompt. It's a clean command prompt ready for me to give it another command. And that command is going to be click on the dimension, delete, and then simply hit this enter key on the keyboard, and that'll get rid of that constraint over there. So now I have placed, and we need to have another sink. Where would we want that sink? Probably right here is a good place for this sink. So I'm going to come over to here, right click, create similar, and then come down here, space bar to spin it around. And I'm going to put that guy right there. Looks like I'm going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard just to bring it back a little bit into the countertop. Back to dimension, center line, over, make sure I pick the edge of the gypsum board here, put it anywhere, equal sign, escape, click on that, delete, and then I get this error message. I can click on it Or I know it's highlighted, so I can simply hit enter and it goes away. So now I have the sink, the washer and dryers. I probably don't want another sink over here on the island in the laundry room. So that looks pretty good. All right, everything looks good. Now it's time to cut the countertop, because if we take a look at what we have, the countertop is running through the sink, which is not good. Generally, when your countertops get delivered to the job site, there will already be a hole cut in it for the sink. But in this case, we need to cut a hole into that. So click on the object, okay. We're going to edit in place. We're going to create a void extrusion. And then we're going to create the outline of that void extrusion. It just has to be a little bit bigger than the openings where the sink is, but less than the size of the entire outline of the sink, because if we cut the hole the same size as we cut as the sink is, then it'll drop through. So we're going to cut this extrusion now. The elevations are correct. It's going to cut through that countertop, and I'll simply say okay, and then say cut. And look what happened. It cut the countertop. So if I change this back to hidden line, you can see, well, not really, but you can see that the countertop no longer goes through there. I'll accept that, and I've cut that void space. Now we'll come over and we'll do it again. Click on the countertop, edit in place. We're going to create a void extrusion. We'll use the rectangle tool to just cut a hole that's bigger than the sink itself as far as the opening of the sink, but smaller than the whole sink proper, because we don't want the sink to fall through the countertop. Say okay, click the green check mark, and say cut. And then you can see now that that countertop is gone where the sink is. Very simple to do. We have a couple other places. This is my family that I've made, so I don't have to cut that countertop, but I do have to cut this one. Edit in place, create a void extrusion, back to the rectangle, just a little bit bigger than the opening, but smaller than the sink, the total sink, so that the sink doesn't fall through. Say okay, say okay. Now, if it doesn't cut your countertop, it's because your constraints weren't set properly. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Click on the countertop, edit in place, over to create, void forms extrusion, rectangle. Now this is going to be a little hard to make a rectangle. So I'll use the pick lines, and I'm going to offset that by 0.5 inches. So now I'm going to hover over all of these lines and make sure that it's offset to the proper side. If I move my mouse just a little bit to that side of the line, you can see where it's going to put the magenta lines in. That's not where I want them, okay? And so I'll do that same thing all the way around. And I'll have to do some cleanup. Plus, I need to delete this guy because I would just put that in as a demonstration of. All right, let's do the trim extend and see what happens here. Just to clean these magenta lines up so they create an enclosed entity. We always click on the parts of the magenta line that we want to keep. If I click on this side of the line and this, look what happens. It kept this part and it cleaned it up relative to there. So I want to make sure that I click on the parts of the magenta line that I want to keep, not the other parts. That looks really good. Now here's what I was talking about, the constraints. We have to have the cut at least to the top of the material we want to cut, or the extrusion in this case, and the bottom of it. But I could change that. I could make my extrusion 3'6" above the ground, and I could make the extrusion 2 feet off of the floor line. It would still work as long as it's the the thickness of the extrusion or greater, it will cut through that. So I've just basically made my extrusion taller and lower than the extrusion that I want to cut, but it still works. And I'll say, I wonder if I can, no, I'm not set up to show you that. All right, let's see if I can show that a little bit better. Let's go over to this view. Let's just see. See if I can grab that extrusion real quickly. No, no, I can't show you what I wanted to do to show you. All right, so anyway, let's take a look here. Sinks cut, sinks cut, sinks cut. Yes, yes, one more to go. Let's do that. This time I want to bring this section line over here to show you. Maybe I can explain it this time with the void extrusion. Edit the in place. We're going to create a void form, a void extrusion. Now it's above and below. Okay. And again, we're going to have to use the pick lines and just offset 0.5 inches. We'll do the same thing again, all the way around. Again, I grabbed I put it on the wrong side. Not a big deal, I can go back and delete that. Which I'm gonna do right now. Delete that line under there, and then back to trim extend or fillet, and just clean that up. I'm just defining the perimeter of my void extrusion. And I'll say okay to that. And there is the void extrusion that I created. So I made it extend 6 inches above the countertop, and I made it extend slightly below the countertop. And that's what's going to do the cutting. But I could also, as long as it's, now it's 3 feet, and now it's 2'10". So that's exactly the opening of the countertop. I can cut it that way. Say, okay, let's go back to the floor plan, and you can see now again, countertop is cut through the sink, but maybe the sink is not quite at the right height. Is that possible? Let's quickly go back to that section just to see. No, the sink's at the good spot. Okay. Okay. So one thing that is a little advanced right now, but I'm going to edit this family and look at the floor plan. And we can't see the countertop because there's I think there's a masking region on that. Let's hit tab just to see. No. No. So what I wanted to show you, I cannot do that right now. That's my countertop for the kit for the bathrooms. What I'm concerned about is not being able to actually see the countertop right now. I thought there was a masking region on there, but apparently there isn't. So I'll have to work on why my family right now is not showing the countertop. But these are the way you're going to do it, by putting in your countertop and simply cutting through it. So now I can go back to my wall of all of the different families that I have and say, here's a dishwasher, create similar. I'm going to come over here, put that dishwasher in, spin it around. Looks like it's backwards because you can see that these arrows are there. So I'll spin it around again. Okay. And let's line that guy up right here and here. And then let's put the dishwasher there. And let's just look here, dude. How does that work? Yep, there's my dishwasher right there. Everything looks good. I'll put in my base cabinets now. Let's flip this section, flip it and go to view. And I want to put in some more cabinets here now. Which cabinets do I want? Well, let's put some drawer cabinets, create similar, next to here, and that looks good. And 3D view, I'm going to close this guy down. I didn't make any changes to him. 3D view, I'm going to close him down. And then I'm going to type WT so that I can see, not only can I see this in 3D and in plan view, but I can also see it as a section. So I can line this guy up. Well, I'm just going to grab this and move him over this way. Whoops. Grab this sink. The reason I'm moving him over is so I can use the align tool and see the edge that I want to align to. So that looks good. And now let's put in one of these guys. So create similar. Come over to the floor plan. Let's put them in right here. And see where the needs to be rotated around 90 degrees. And let's line this guy up with the edge of there. Let's see if that works. Yep, that works. And I have a little space there left, so let's use that. Let's grab this guy and copy him over from here to here. And you can see that it's a little wider than I want it to be. So let's see, it's got a, I'm looking for the, oh, it's not wider than I want it to be. It's not as wide as I want it to be. Okay, so how much more do I want it to extend by? From here to here is 9 inches. So I'm going to make this cabinet 9 inches bigger. So I come over to here, it's 15, I need a 24 inch. So let's see if I have a 24 inch farmhouse style 4-drawer. I don't have a 24 inch. So what are we going to do? Edit the type, duplicate it. We're going to call it 24 inch. And then change the width of that to 24 inches. And say, okay. Look at that. So now I can align this guy with the edge of the wall. Look at that. Everything looks good on that side. Where's my 3D view? You can see that I don't have them placed back in the wall. I can see that here too. So I'm going to click here. This time I'm going to do multiple alignments. That means that once I've given the line that I want the objects to be aligned to, I can select multiple objects. So click here, 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 and here. Now my cabinets are back where I want them to be. The dishwasher is inside the sink cabinet, so I'm just going to move it over to the side and then use the align tool because I can see the edge now and align that guy to the edge of there. What's left? All right, let's see. We can take this guy and copy him from the edge of the cabinet to that side, and then let's grab this guy and put another one of those in there too. So I'm going to copy it from here over to here. Look at that. It looks really good. Got my kitchen in there. Kitchen base cabinets in there. So the desire here is to keep the tutorials short. So I'll come back and continue putting in cabinets in the next tutorial.